Alright, let's get all loaded up here. Alright. Hello. Alright. Where did I leave off last time? Last night. Alright, I think that's getting a little stiff here, so I'm probably going to pull this back. Yep, definitely newish. So to finish that panel. So, well, I started this a couple days ago, but yeah, newish enough, I guess. Let's see. Pull back on some of these like over-rendered details, maybe. Yeah, working on a little set-ish scenes, I guess. We'll see how it goes, but pull back on this guy a little bit here. Like it's just getting a little heavy-handed, so we'll pull back on some of that a little bit. Good evening, people popping in. There we go. Will I draw about the pharaohs in the future? Probably not. Pharaohs are cool and all, but definitely not my area of expertise. But if you're from Egypt, seems like that'd be a good subject to focus on. People like Egyptian stuff, right? Remember the Stargate series had a bunch of that in there. like the underdrawing. I just thought it was getting a little overwrought. Right? So yeah, but definitely a worthwhile subject. You know, a lot of mystery and interest in history. You know, what would it be like if Egypt was still like it was, 2,000 years ago with the pharaohs? You know, if that had continued through today, what would that be like? Could be interesting, right? I guess the power's out on this thing. It's no good. Should plug. Push that over here a little bit. Yeah, people like Egyptian stuff. You know, it's an interesting bit of history that lasted for a very long time, and has all these mysterious artifacts and architecture and a language that baffled people for a very long time. So there's definitely a lot there. I think even that, was it that rock movie, Black Adam? Wasn't that set in Egypt? All the Indiana Jones stuff, of course. The Mummy movie. Yeah, it's too bad that movie didn't do very well. I mean, I didn't see it, so but no, it's a very very long running civilization. There's definitely had its own changes and things over time, but to our eyes, it looks like it didn't change very much for thousands of years, which is pretty unusual. We look at like Rome or Greece, and they were around a while, but they weren't around that long. I don't even think any like Asian culture can brag about that. China or Japan or something like that. I live in the United States, in Virginia, the state of Virginia. So, pretty far from Egypt. I live about 2 hours south. It's 2 hours drive south of Washington, D.C. So, that's where I live. So, yeah, it's just evening now, so we're getting into evening of Sunday. These lines are so heavy down there in the middle. Yeah, it's a long, long way. It's always interesting to see who pops up on these live streams. For a while, I was getting a lot of Brazilians. I'm not sure why. Oh yeah, Pennsylvania. I lived in Pennsylvania, up in Lancaster, which is kind of in the middle south of the state. So, that was a while ago. I could be friends live up there. But, yeah. It's interesting how the Egyptian language got forgotten for so long. Imagine, living among the pyramids and ancient artifacts and then not being able to understand what they were for. Diogo Jota, I don't know who that is. I tend to draw my own stories. I don't tend to do like any fan art or any of that kind of stuff. Just never have. So probably not. I don't know who that is. So. So definitely not in that case because I don't know who that is. So make it very challenging to draw something I've never heard of before. I always get interesting kind of requests like that where people are like, will you draw this? And I'm like, I don't know what that is. Never quite sure know what to do about those. Oh yeah. Well, you get busy, right? Life's that's how life goes, right? You never know where things will take you. It's important though to focus on things that are important to you. And, drawing isn't necessarily for everybody. I think it's great for everybody, but not necessarily what everyone needs to be doing if they don't want to. I appreciate that. Hello. They're on the YouTube side. Look up once in a while, make sure I'm not missing anybody. Good evening. Let's see. Oh. Things sharpened up. Into this figure a bit more. Might need to erase them back just a little more. Let's see. Let's get into this guy. card feels much better. Let's see. Good evening. It's much better. So I can push this up higher. Up, and away. Yeah, it's much better. Probably see other things I want to improve later, but it's a good spot to pause that. So I guess I should put the backpack on here. Put the pack on the backpack. And get the thing on the back. Let's see. Review. So angles this way. More like that. Nope. More like that big. Should we go more like that? So that angle's going down that way. Let's move that forward. Let's clean that up first. So go with that one. Might be a little wider, just so you can see it below. Go. Alright. I think that settles that one. Oh, move on to the next one. Let's see. Let's see. quick. These things are pretty quiet anyway, right? Probably my sister. Alright, I guess that'll do. Good evening. Then they got 2 board. Right, Bosch? Got a sleepy dog under my feet, as usual. Let's see. I'll get everybody in the right spot, right? Almost there. This attached here. So 3. Thought something seemed off there. Some more key blowing up. Hi, Bosch. My dog is patiently awaiting his evening for something to eat. As a dog does. I appreciate that. Hello over there. Kick. What am I drawing? I'm working on some pages for, I guess, a comic or a graphic novel or something. personal project. I've been working on a kind of personal concept portfolio update, and in the process of doing it, I've come up with ideas for kind of stories related to it. So I thought it would be an interesting idea to actually try out some kind of story. Oh, I'm sorry, I don't speak Espanol, sadly. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Let's see. Let's see. Yeah, there's too many languages in the world, right? Only draw out of square. Not sure what that means. But there are many shapes, right? Let's see. This has to come up to there. So we got a finger there, a finger there, a finger there. These need to be kind of fidgeting with that thing, so. Manga? Well, not manga specifically, but definitely, comics. I mean, like some manga I've read, like Akira and Berserk, probably some others I can't think of right now. Oh, excuse me. Of fights or ancestral. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Like subject or like action or historical. Well, I tend to find where inspiration happens comes from making things. And so by kind of making more things, it inspires ideas for even more, for me anyway. So if anything, I've got too many things I want to make because I'm always coming up with something new. So that definitely makes a big difference for me. So I know a lot of people get concerned about that, but I tend to find that just making new things often inspires many new things. That kind of leads you where you need to go or gives you opportunities for new places to go. Do I have good accuracy? Can I draw pretty well? I hope so. I think I do okay for the most part. So that goes there. I think I need to put some pages in this so I can do something different with these things. So this is definitely going to still be back here, but it's going to be back in its spot. Well, it takes a lot of practice, right? You know, most people are not born excellent draftsmen or drawers. You know, it takes time and it takes a lot of practice. And you know, you just have to find the time and make the time and the place to do all those things. So what my tip? But it's definitely, you know, I like it. I think it's worth the effort. And so far, I've been at it for a long time, so. got all of our pieces we need for this one. Let's see. Oh, it's too big. Too wide. Maybe same thing as that one. Oh, so I'll have to freehand it. Let's see. This needs to come across there. Yeah, well, yeah. One of the tricks for concentration is consistency. So, having specific time and place and project to work on can make a big difference for that. Um, like knowing what you're working on and why, and what you're trying to achieve, will help you get closer to your goals. So, and then working on it consistently. So every day or whatever schedule you have. Will help you kind of get closer to that. And obviously, if you're not working on that, then you don't get any closer, right? So, I appreciate that. I am making one. We'll see how it goes. At least, I don't know if it'll be a series, but at least there's one, right? At least these pages. Never really done it before, so I wanted to give it a go. I was working on I've told other people before, I was working on my own little concept art project, because that's my background. Professionally, I was doing concept art. So I was working on kind of a portfolio update, and as I've been developing that, had stories kind of suggest themselves to me in the process of that, getting inspired by the work I'm making. And I thought, maybe I'll try doing a comic or something with it. So we shall see how it turns out. I did do a few pages last year in the summer, but they were based off of the Blade Runner script. They came out okay. I'd never done it before, so I was satisfied with the results, but didn't take them any further than making them. Who knows? Maybe I'll try to submit it to Image or something like that. Depending on how well it goes. Do I have any tips? I don't know. Keep at it. I think storytelling is the most important thing. So I think it's more important than like really good drawing or detail. Being able to tell a convincing, understandable story. Hopefully, I'm going to accomplish that. So, I've been spending a lot of time looking at how people talk about storytelling and, things that I've been inspired by. So, yeah, but I'm curious to see kind of how it works out for me because I've never really done this kind of thing before. Always been curious about it. I kind of backed off it a long time ago when I was younger because I found out what professional comic book artists made per page and how much work they had to do, and but there were certain things I didn't know anything about. Like I didn't know about what's sort of called royalties. So when you're working for Marvel or DC and you're, say, working on X-Men or Batman or Spider-Man or whatever, you get paid a certain amount at the beginning, and actually the way to think about that is called an advance on royalties. So similar to how it works like in children's books or book covers, but basically you get paid a certain amount at the beginning, and that's kind of there to get you to do the project. But ultimately, what's really can be profitable for an artist like that is the royalties. So the more copies that sell, you get paid more eventually. So they minus out the amount they paid you initially, and then they start paying you royalties. And I didn't know that was a thing. The way comics sell right now, at least the major companies, I wouldn't anticipate getting those royalties. But with the way they were when I was younger, they certainly did. So it's called working title for the whole project is called Bramble, BRAMBLE. And let's see, let's put this guy's little insignia on here. And the idea behind it is that humans have crashed and settled on this alien planet that they were planning on settling anyway. But they can't leave. And the planet itself looks like a giant tangle of plants, a bramble. And anyway, on the planet there's evidence of a previous civilization, but the inhabitants appear to be all gone. Like there's no biological evidence of them, there's no bones, there's artifacts, but that's it. And they don't know what they were doing or where they went or what happened. It's a completely alien thing. They're not human. And anyway, this story here is set about 80 years after that. The major part of my concept project is actually set much later. It's like 800 years or 500 years or something like that later. This is a simpler story I thought I would start with. Anyway, this guy, when they landed, there was a number of the colony ships, and a bunch of them crashed. And most of them kind of crashed nearby each other or at the same location, but some of them landed in other locations, and they've not been able to get in contact with them, or some of them anyway. So this one is story set about 80 years after they landed, and this guy is going out to investigate a crash site. And so that's what this wreckage is right here. There's a bunch more of it. Here's the actual ship, or the front of it anyway, up here. See the kind of crash area that he's checking out. But anyway, he's there to kind of look for supplies and things that they can bring back to their colony. So they assume nobody's around anymore. It's been a long time. They've adapted some of their tech to work on the planet, so he's got like these blade prosthetics on here. Yeah, I'll be working on it for a while, so keep an eye on it on the YouTube here. This one, the one that's set much later, I've thought about doing as a Kickstarter or something like that. Though this one, I was just going to do like a few things with this one, then suddenly the story has kind of expanded in my mind as I've worked on it. So I want to sit down and kind of board it all out. So I got some stuff to help me out with that. Once I get these initial pages done, and then I can board out the rest. So I've like done some concepts and things for other events related to this guy's exploration. So I just figured doing it in a comic would be a good way to kind of show, or have him do an exploration of the concepts, right? So the environments and the creatures and characters and all of that that I've been putting together. It's like when building his glider he takes to get out to this location. Um, let's see. Oh, I've got a front page. Oh, that's nice to see. From Kick. Oh, this gives me some bonus views, I guess. I don't know how many people are actually watching. I just see the chat, so um, from here anyway. My main computer is off to the left over there. I'm using an old MacBook to kind of broadcast out of. So kind of makes it hard to see how many people are actually in here. I can from Instagram, but that's because the camera's like right next to me. Let's see. But as far as story stuff, there's definitely going to be some cosmic horror stuff going on with this. The humans don't really understand what's going on with this planet they've moved to, and they don't understand kind of what the planet is and why it is the way it is, and it's going to cause them troubles down the line. In spite of the many things they learn about being here. Good evening, I guess. Peter Sakovich, that's right. It can be a challenge to pronounce, so I always like to stick the pronunciation on there. Some people get confused. And I understand why, so. It's a weird looking name. Good evening over there on Kick. Yeah, I hear him on the front page for some reason. Not sure why. Art streams usually aren't that popular. Especially kind of chill and draw ones. I'm working on this project mostly in the evening. In the mornings, you'll find me doing my morning study project stuff. So it's just things that I like to practice with as I get kind of started with the day. And those kind of help me make sure I'm always making something, no matter how busy I am. So, yeah, welcome. I appreciate you all popping in. As long as you want to stick around, you're welcome. I'm probably on for another half hour. And, before time to get before it's time to get ready for bed. I always like to kind of start and stop my day the same time as much as I can. I always get asked about productivity tips and things from my students and people online or whatever. And one of the things I always like to point out is just kind of being really consistent about your schedule and knowing what you're going to work on. And the more that you can kind of do that, yeah, so you find me in the morning doing that. I get very first thing. I'm not even cleaned up or anything. I just throw on. Well, I have my pajamas on and a hoodie usually, and do my morning study for about an hour. Kind of see what else has to happen for that day. Alright, let's see what this guy in there. Do let me know if there's any questions, as usual. If anyone has any thoughts or recommendations or whatever. So look at this guy. Good evening. Assalamualaikum. Nie точно понимаю. This is paper. It's really nice. Oh, that's fine. Let me know. I don't remember what I was saying to you exactly, but welcome back. Откуда знаю твой язык? Я не знаю, я грамотный человек, все знаю. Я учился русскому в школе, в университете и жил несколько лет в Прибалтике. Давно уже. Да, редко бывает возможность практиковать русский язык здесь. Я живу в штате Вирджиния, недалеко от Вашингтона. О, спасибо. Всегда приятно говорить по-русски, независимо от от проблем между нашими руководителями. Я несколько раз был в России. Уже, может быть, больше 10 лет, когда я жил в Гонконге, посетил Питер. Нет, Москву раз. И один раз раньше, но очень-очень давно. Ну, спасибо. Vien tik blogai, kad nėra nė vieno lietuvo čia. Let's see. Another thing over there, but you can't see it here. This might be visible. Here we go. Да, очень красивая, большая, огромный город. Конечно, метро красиво. В основном я был там, чтобы посещать музеи, особенно Третьяковская галерея и как это другая называется для искусства. Там есть два музея особых. И был у, как это называется, Академия художества по имени Сурикова. Они сделали там тур там. По профессии я профессор. Работаю профессором в университете Virginia Commonwealth University. В городе Ричмонде, в штате Вирджинии. Но также работаю в компьютерных играх и как это, мутках, как иллюстратором и концепт-дизайнером. Вот такая моя типа работы. Some clouds back here. Облака. Облак некоторых. see. Ah. Да, очень интересно, потому что этот город очень старый в сравнении многих других городов в Америке. Относительно старый город. Много историй важных для Америки происходило здесь. Особенно во время революции и между и война между штатами. Yeah, sorry if anybody else understands. Just some questions. I don't get to speak in Russian very often, so it's always pleasant when I do. Reminds me I should practice. Между прочим, я заметил, что Мосфильм имеет канал на YouTube сейчас. То есть, возможно, там посмотреть много фильмов. Но еще не посмотрел. Yeah, so don't hesitate to ask questions in English if you have any. I just, Это о группе людей, людей, которые живут как это, на планете очень далеко от нашей. И этот человек, он исследует, что случилось с другим кораблем. И для своей колонии узнать, кто там и что случилось с ними, есть ли какие-нибудь ресурсы, они могут использовать. И проблема с этой планетой то, что ясно, что была какая-то бывшая цивилизация там, но народ совсем исчезнулся, и нет никаких как тел или другие доказательства того, какие они были. Но есть как здания или творчество, они, которые еще стоят, но они не знают, в чем дело и как работает, и так далее. Люди не понимают это. Им интересны их технологии, и хотят узнать, что случилось с ними, что они могут делать со всеми это, какие влияния, может быть, имеет. It's Russian. Sorry. Yeah, I don't get a lot of Russians in here very often, but I do speak Russian. I'm not native or anything, but born in California, so it's about as American as it gets, I guess. But question about the story here. I haven't translated it into Russian, so it's a little harder to describe. Писать на русском тяжелее, потому что не переводил ее еще для себя. I speak, native English speaker, right? So, born and raised in the United States. I do speak Russian pretty well. I studied it in like high school and college. And I lived a little bit in Eastern Europe in the late '90s, and the Baltic states, in Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia for a couple of years. And then I also speak Lithuanian, Lietuvių kalba, and I speak some pretty not really great Cantonese. I lived in Hong Kong for 4 years teaching with a university there. It's no longer there, so it was an American school. Um, but I never, I got okay with it, but not very as fluent as I would like to have gotten. I ran into this problem where everybody in Hong Kong speaks English, and I don't look like I'm from Hong Kong, so they would always just try to speak English to me. But yeah, 如果要给我講中文啊，我會講中文啊，好醜啊。But something I'd like to get back to. I just haven't any time to practice. It just takes a lot of time, and one of those things, right? Spanish, I wouldn't mind learning. I did study it a little bit when I visited Spain a couple times. Been to Madrid and Barcelona, but it's been a minute. Well, not really. I mean, I haven't been drawing that long this evening anyway, so your arm only tends to get tired if you're like pushing really hard, and I try to draw pretty soft unless I need to push hard for a good reason. But yeah, you do have to be careful. I try not to draw with my wrist. I try to draw mostly with my arm. In fact, I need to put my brace back here so I can lean on this, draw above the paper. No. Yeah, I like drawing, so it's something I always enjoy doing. If anything, I'd like to do more. If I had more time, and well, if there's more time in the day, and there was more of me, I would do it more. Actually, with concept art now, most of my background is with drawing environments and creatures. Less so characters. Also, trying to get back, doing more with characters now. But I like drawing. I like telling stories. I like talking about art and process and all of that good stuff. So it's like I've taught figure drawing since 2004. It's the thing I've taught the most. I'm not teaching it right now, but sorry, I was telling the Russian guy. I work as a professor at a university, so it's my day job. So I don't have to go to school right now because it's summertime, right? So I'm working on this, and so it's a good way to spend part of the summer, right? I can draw, whatever, if, especially if you have reference, something to look at. Just kind of depends on what the project is. What time is it? 9:30. Probably actually a good spot to stop because I wanted to figure out what I'm going to do here. So I think I'm going to move these to a little bit later. So I want to show this kind of rotating into position. I don't know if that'll do or not. But yeah, I was going to rework this one on the left, and then I'm working on this one, and then I think I'm trying to put too much detail in this other one, but and then click. Then I need them to activate it, and I want to show it. I'll figure it out. These projects, I'm not sure with this. I've never done a comic before, so it's hard for me to say. I've only been working on really part-time, so the last last week. So I finished up doing the roughs, scanned them in. I printed the roughs in blue on here, so the roughs are much smaller. They're like letter size for the overall pages. And then been working on these actual finished pages. These are I've done 3 pages already. So this is page 4 and 5. And so we'll see. I've got one more that I've kind of printed out after this, but I want to put a couple page. I want to put something between that page and this page, like a different story. So I think I need to rethink that one a bit, and then basically he's setting down here, setting off a drone, but I want to save that for later when he gets to the actual thing. So I want to kind of see him traverse some of this. Let's see, I wrote this down here. So here's where he's going. He's going to this crash ship up here. He's gonna land. He's basically landing like right here, essentially in this area. So you see him coming in over here on cameras. Let's see the camera. There we go. So you kind of see him. He's coming in here. He's gonna land down here, and he's gonna make his way over there. So I want to do a scene that kind of shows him going after he lands on his little balloon thing here, kind of from here to there. So I'm finishing up, and I'm going to grab the other pages. I can show you what I've done. These are pretty large. I wish I could zoom out further, but I can't, so I won't. But let's see. So here's the other pages I've done. Stick that up there. So this is the first shot right there, first page. You can see his eyes there. I want to go back and maybe revise his costume a bit, so I want to kind of rework it in here. But that's the first page, first shot. So you see him, he's getting ready, he's next to a ship. And then we see kind of this shot of the ship, and he's looking out over some clouds. So this is his glider that got him out there, landed it, got his stuff out here that's up here, and then he jumps. And this little balloon, you see him jumping out here. This is a close-up of his pack, and this balloon kind of pops out. So part I want to do is just show functionality along with the story. So that comes out, and then here he is, floating along, and on this alien planet, and then there's the ship that he's headed to in the background. And then that takes us to here. So I was originally just kind of do this like a scene at a time, which I'll probably end up doing anyway. But I figured I realized I kind of want a scene between what this ended up with and what the next page is. I want to kind of have something in between. So I need to figure out what that is. But I need to figure what I can do with these two panels real quick. I'll sit on that overnight and work on that tomorrow. But probably show him like here, start to head off or something. Start running off over here, so that takes us kind of to the next page. Maybe have something here that makes the page worth turning, which I had here originally, but I can show him starting to run because he's also running on these blades prosthetics. So if you look at here, these things right there, kind of like what you'd see like someone who's lost part of their lower leg or something like that. They get these blade prosthetics they can run on. You also saw it in the Portal game. The idea is, it allows him to kind of traverse territory more quickly. So I wanted to be able to show that too, and I didn't really have an opportunity set up for myself to do that. So it's him who takes off from here, and maybe he pulls his hood off or something so you can see his face. And maybe we show him kind of traversing over a couple more pages until he gets to the ship. So that's what I'm thinking. And that's what we have. But I appreciate everybody that came in. I'm going to call it there for tonight. I'll be back in the morning with my morning study, where I'll be probably sketching some more hands. And put this all the way back over here, so I don't make a mess. Clean up a little bit, right? So I got a couple panels done, one really revised. Then tomorrow, careful, I will working on some hands. So that's what I've done recently, and I'll be flipping this over to a blank sheet of paper. So did this little group down here this morning. But yeah, appreciate everybody that came in, and hopefully we'll see you all later.